Welcome to the AI Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Every day, I bring you breaking AI news, diving into the implications it has in your life and business. If you're interested in sponsoring the podcast and getting your company in front of thousands of AI enthusiasts every day, there's an email in the description. Finally, make sure you are on the waitlist for the AI Box platform, a tool we are building to allow you to automate virtually any task with AI tools. Find it at aibox.ai. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? I record and publish podcasts on a platform called Spotify for Podcasters, and I absolutely love it. Essentially, you can upload from your phone or computer, and it distributes to every platform that plays podcasts. They support video podcasts, and you can make money on the platform with ads or even podcast subscriptions, something that has made my life so much easier as a podcaster. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcast app, or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your podcast today. There is a big new update to Anthropic, which is one of the biggest large language models after ChatGPT. So today on the podcast, we're going to be diving into what exactly is happening here and what this big update is. So Anthropic, which is the AI venture formed by actually former OpenAI executives, has recently rolled out Claude Instant 1.2. So this is an upgraded version of its text-generating model, and this new version leverages the power of the recently unveiled Claude 2, which essentially has considerable improvements in areas like math, coding, reasoning, and safety. And this is a very big deal for a lot of reasons, but let's go into them. First off, according to data shared by Anthropic, Claude Instant 1.2 actually achieves a 58.7% score on a coding benchmark. So in comparison, its predecessor, Claude Instant 1.1, got a 52.8%. So, that's from 52 or maybe roughly like 53 to 59. That's pretty significant. That's a really good improvement, especially on such a small update like this. On a set of mathematical questions, the new version outperformed the older. It got a score of around 87%, and before it was at around 81%. So again, we're seeing big improvements from a small update on math and on coding. Now, this is important because currently, even OpenAI is struggling with these areas, and they're relying on essentially companies like Wolfgram and other ones to kind of help them with plugins on areas that they are struggling on. But Anthropic actually mentioned in a blog update that Claude Instant now produces more extended, well-structured responses and is notably better at adhering to formatting guidelines you might give it, right? So if you ask it to come up with bullet points, or if you ask it to use a certain amount of sentences or paragraphs, or however you want it to be formatted with headings, it's actually better at following those formatting guidelines now. So additionally, Instant 1.2 has enhanced its capabilities in quote extraction, multilingual task, and also answering queries. This is like really a big update in my opinion on just core functionalities for something that is going from 1.1 to 1.2, right? Like it's essentially like a 10th, but it is pretty significant. I think the risk of Claude Instant 1.2 hallucinating or producing irrelevant text has also been reduced. It's also been, I guess they kind of like fortified it against jailbreaking attempts, right? Trying to get it to say stuff it shouldn't. And for the, for those that don't know what jailbreaking is, essentially this just refers to using prompts to essentially get it to, tell you how to do things it shouldn't, like, rob a bank or whatever, various other illegal or things that it shouldn't do. So what's really interesting is that Claude Instant 1.2 actually has a context window identical in size to that of Claude 2. So that is the exact same, which is about 100,000 tokens. And this context window indicates the textual data and model essentially examines prior to generating further content. So to put this into perspective, Claude Instant 1.2 and Claude 2 can evaluate around 75,000 words. Compare that to ChatGPT, right? Like we all know there is the limits when we try to put in a certain amount of text and it says, hey, this is too much text. I've like pasted in a whole article and said like, hey, find me like 5 interesting, important bullet points of things that are happening in this article. But then it's like, hey, this article's too long. We can't do this, right? This is not going to happen on something like Claude Instant 1.2 or Claude 2. So 75,000 words is approximately the size of a classical book like The Great Gatsby, for example. And typically models with really expansive context windows have a much better continuity in ongoing dialogues. Historically, I think we've noted that Anthropic's kind of overarching goal is the development of a next generation AI self-learning algorithms. So I think the company really envisions this technology powering virtual assistants capable of tasks like responding to emails, conducting research, or even, like creating art and literature. They're kind of focused on making sure it can do this. So while we've seen glimpses of these capabilities in things like GPT-4, I think the true potential of this kind of technology, I think, is really vast, and we're just scratching the surface on it. So I think it is pretty essential to note that Claude Instant doesn't really embody this whole revolutionary algorithm. I think it's positioned to rival beginner level products from major players like OpenAI and things like Cohere, AI21 Labs. All of them are kind of navigating the realm of AI-driven text and image generation, and I think that's kind of where they fit. Since its inception in 2021 under, I believe their CEO is Dario Amodei. He's the ex-VP of research at OpenAI. Anthropic has actually raised $1.45 billion in funding, absolutely gargantuan. And they have a massive valuation in the, I think it's a single-digit billions, but it is quite large. So I think these new numbers are really impressive. The company's projections indicate that they're going to require a massive $5 billion over the next 2 years to actually build out their dream chatbot the way they want. So obviously this is very intensive in spending. They've raised a lot of money. They're investing heavily. They're bringing big updates. But, you got to know that this isn't some small startup that is just throwing out little bits of money here and there. They've raised a lot, and they are heavily investing. So when they make these big updates to their models, they definitely come at a cost. Currently, I think Anthropic has secured, I think they have collaborations with thousands of clients and partners. I think specifically they have one with Quora, which gives access to Claude and Claude Instant on its subscription-based AI tool, which is called Poe. And in addition, I think DuckDuckGo's Duck Assist feature uses them, and that currently helps people with search queries. And they are using Claude and also ChatGPT, so kind of interesting. They got both platforms on there. Those are ones they're going to have to kind of battle it out. But I think with the Notion ecosystem, they're embedded there. And then I think Claude also kind of helps with the technical framework for the Notion AI, which essentially is an AI writing aid that kind of integrates into the Notion workspace. A lot of people were surprised by this. They thought Notion was going to partner up with OpenAI, but indeed they went with Anthropic's Claude. So I think there's some really cool updates coming. This is going to make it much more user-friendly, much better of a tool for users. And to be honest, it does have a lot of features that OpenAI and ChatGPT don't have. That 75,000 word context window, right? You can upload an entire PDF to Claude that's 75,000 words and ask it questions about it, and it can very quickly scan through, read, and give you answers. That's amazing. It's not something you're seeing with OpenAI. Now, the thing about that is it definitely comes at a cost, very high server costs when you're doing that kind of compute. And so, the thing that's a little tricky there is they're obviously spending a lot more and giving you a lot more bang for your buck, but it's hard to know how sustainable and how long that will last. If they'll actually be able to offer that, if they're, that's profitable, most likely I'd say it is not. And that is why we're seeing, OpenAI not scale that back. And for someone like Anthropic's Claude, their user base is much smaller. And so they can kind of spend heavier to get their users because they weren't the number one, where someone like OpenAI may not be able to financially foot a bill like that because of how massive their user base already is, and they're already the number one player. So it's going to be interesting to see what other improvements and features are coming out of Anthropic, how they continue to try to compete with OpenAI. Overall, I think they're doing a good job, and I think the thing to be really watching out for is how sustainable they are long term.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Thank you for listening to the AI Chat podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd appreciate it if you rate us wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're looking for an innovative group of AI enthusiasts, make sure to check out our Discord channel and Facebook community. It's obviously a lot more interactive than a podcast where we can share software, tools, and prompts we're using in AI every day. I'll leave a link for those in the description below.